Hi, and welcome to a very quick lesson on disk quotas and one or two other user management options that we have available within the Active Directory. The first thing I'm going to start off is with disk quotas. Disk quotas is basically where we give all the users on our server, we've got storage space on our server, we give them a limited amount of disk space. So that this means that we don't run the risk of our server hard drive becoming full. So we can reduce quotas as to the level of user access we give them. So some people might get 80 meg, some people might get 80 gig. It all depends on how much space a user requires. So that's down to us as administrators. So the first thing we need to do is go to computer, and we need to enable disk quotas on our server. We've got some couple of shares. We've got home and we've got options there. So we need to do it at the volume level. And we haven't got lots of disks in our virtual machine. We've just got the one. So we need to do it at this volume level. So you right click and go to properties, and you'll see we've got an option and a tab called quota. Once I do that, I say show quota settings. But we haven't got any set up at this moment. I'll click continue to that. And now you'll see that we've got disk quotas disabled. That's the standard way that it'll be. So I'll enable quota management. I'll deny disk space to anybody exceeding the quota. So you could just leave that unticked and people will just be warned, but you want to stop them from being able to save once they reach their quota. I'm going to limit disk space to, and it's up to me how much I've picked. So in a previous sort of walkthrough, I've done it at 100 meg, and I've set the warning level to 80 meg. It could be gigs, it could be terabytes. It's up to you how much you pick. So when they get to 80 meg, they're going to get a warning telling them that they're getting there. But we need to know how our users are performing as well. So we can log an event when a user exceeds their quota, and we can log an event when a user exceeds their warning level. And then I just need to apply that. And it tells me it's going to rescan my disks and apply these quotas to the people that are already there. So I need to be careful. So it's best to do this when you're designing your server and before you start applying the rights and permissions. Better to do it at the start, but obviously you can do it in retrospect. And I'll show you one or two steps you'll have to do if you're doing it a bit later like we are. So I'll click OK, and it'll now go ahead and reshuffle it. And as you see, it says this quota system is active. So if I click, I'll just give it a few more seconds to work out what it needs to do, because it'll throw out a warning to in a minute. So I could now click OK, and I've now got my disk quotas done. But I need to check one or two things. So I'll go to properties, quota, show quota settings one more time, and I'll go into quota entries. As you can see, it's telling me I've got a few users on here, test 3 and test. They've now been given a quota, but we've got a problem instantly in that server 2008, our administrator permission is already over limit, because I've got amount used 1.4 gig or 1.04 gig, quota limit 100, so I have well exceeded my level. So I need to make sure that this user is exempt. So all I do is click the user, do not limit the space, and now everything's okay. So you want to make sure that anything that's server driven or server rights is not limited in this way. So I can click OK to these, and everything, do not limit space, and everything. So now our user and everything is sorted out, and they are not limited. So, and some previous users I've made are limited, and I can go in and change theirs if I want to as well. So I could set the warning level to 80 meg quite easily. And I've individually done something different for that user. I could easily put them up to 150 meg. So this user gets a little bit more than anybody else. So that's the users that I've done previously, and they're all assigned. But I've also got new users that I've made in previous lessons. So if I go to quote, how do I add a new one? So there's a few ways to do it. But everything you do is from within this screen. So all I need to do is go to quota and new quota entry. If you can import thousands of users if you want to, and you can also delete the quota entry for somebody, but I'm going to add a new quota entry, and for that I know I'm in users, I know I'm in the virtual domain, so if I type in test, and I made a user called test13, and I can't quite get to it, but test13 wasn't appearing on the list. So I click OK, and click OK again, and now it's already starting to put that in for me. As you can see, test 3 and test are there, but not test 13. So I'll accept the defaults that I set when I originally set it up. I click OK, and test 13 has now got a quota limit. So that's how you add a user to the quotas. So that's this quotas set up. How do you monitor and see what's going on with this quotas? Well, one way is to do it the way I've just shown you there, in computer and properties quota. One way is to look at the quota entries, but if you imagine a network with thousands of users, you'd have to be looking up and down or editing how much you've had, and this is a pretty good way to do it. But you also can see it somewhere else, and if I go to the event viewer, so the way I do it, I just go to the event viewer there. I'll open up event viewer. It may take a few moments to rebuild. Let's see. Okay, there's event viewer. I need to go to Windows logs, and I believe they're in system, and it should show me, there we are. So it's showing me the source NTFS, NT file system, and it says that the system started rebuilding the disk space. And what else does it say? System is successfully rebuilt, started rebuilding, and anybody that goes over service now will appear in here. So if you can view things by source, it'll take quite a time, but all you need to do in event view is look for source, and you can read the description. There's quite a few events, so it's going to take too long probably to wait for them to come through, but you can see all the events that are on the server, and you just want to give it a bit of time, do a search for NTFS, and you'll find all the various ones you want under the source. So that's pretty much this quotas, enabling them, disabling them, and changing how much people get. And you'll see group policy, you'll see any DHCP settings that are given out. You'll see pretty much everything in your event viewer. And there's my NTFS information as well. And as soon as a user goes over, you'll get an error, and you'll see it there, and you can contact that user then, and you'll know why they've can no longer save their files. So that's this quotas.